right, Doom Vivemus Vivamus Epicureans. This is the Marvel Epic Collection Podcast One-Shot Edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well. We are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is X-Men number 96. All right, are you ready to do this, Stojr?
Let's do it. Let's jump in.
All right, this is Night of the Demon. Chris Claremont is still the author, but with a plotting assist credited to Bill Mantlo. In Mourning Thunderbird's death, Cyclops unleashes his optic blast and unwittingly destroys a mystic cairn, which entrapped the demon called Kirok. I don't know how the heck you'd pronounce that, but yeah, Kirok. Anyway, Kirok attacks the X-Men's mansion just as the team is getting to know the new housekeeper named Moira McTaggart. The X-Men put up a good fight, but only defeat the demon when Storm fully destroys the cairn. Alright, Stojr, what do you think of this issue?
So I thought this issue was great with everything except for the villain. The fact that there's this sort of one-eyed monster, I'm sure that was purposeful with Cyclops, but this one-eyed monster, that just happens to be out in the woods where he is and things like that was a little silly. But the rest of the issue has some really
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little convenient. The rest of the issue has some really good stuff. Like, Cyclops actually mourning the death of one of his soldiers is really good. You get some good interpersonal stuff with Colossus and Nightcrawler and Storm in the Danger Room. Moira coming in as sort of a housekeeper seems a little odd, where she ends up as a character, like she's a scientist and things like that. But she instantly, you see that she's more than that in this issue with her picking up a machine gun at some point in time. You get the very early part of her and Sean Cassidy, together. And then you get these like hints of I think it's pronounced Orcus, which is the villain during the Krakoa era. And I don't know if that was purposeful or there's actual ties. I didn't do any research. But this sort of organization that is developing these things and sort of doing research on the X-Men and all these humans, it feels very much like the villains that are in the Krakoa era. So that's very interesting. And I'm gonna have to go back and look and see if that's a sort of purposeful homage to this era. I also looked up who this doctor is, this Dr. Lang, because I wanted to see is this person related to Ant-Man or anything like that. And what I found was that he's not, or at least I don't think he is, from what I found.
I had kind of
But
the same wonder when I saw his name. But yeah.
I did realize where he's from. In fact, I'm not gonna be able to grab it that quickly, but during the Flanex crossover, he's still around, or he comes back, or at that time, or something like that. So some 30 years later, and he's one of those people that are just kind of swimming in techno-organic stuff with weird stuff coming out of their head and stuff like that. So he makes some appearances later on and some problems for the X-Men, not just as a human. How about yours? What did you think?
So, yeah, similar thoughts. Yeah, the villain, whatever, weird demon monster, cool, whatever. I did think there are a lot of great little details in this issue. For a start, we learn about Storm's claustrophobia, which provides a great little piece of character background for her. And it also makes a lot of sense given her powers, right? The controlling of the weather, but if she feels enclosed, that, can't really do her thing. We get some more development of Wolverine's character, establishing that he's not a bad guy. He just clearly has some anger issues he's working through. So that's all great and fun. And of course, Moira McTaggart. Stojr, am I right in remembering that they somehow established that she was an ex-wife of Xavier's at some point? Or is that some headcanon I invented when I was a kid?
They have a relationship. I don't remember if they actually were married at one point in time, but they definitely have a relationship or had a relationship in the past. So you're not far off. I mean, is I always get confused as to, I guess Proteus is her kid, but not Charles's,
Right.
because Legion is Charles's kid. So yeah, it gets a little wacky. But yeah, they were together at one point in time. In fact, one of the grounding framework devices that you have in uh, Dawn of X, Powers of 10, the sort of kickoff to the Krakoa era, is Moira and Charles meeting as young adults and sort of having a budding relationship there and stuff like that. So you get to see those that imagery over and over.
Hmm. All right, cool. Well, I do have a no prize award for this issue, and we're going to give the Woman Without Fear award to Moira McTaggart for, as you said, her default response to seeing a demon was to charge in at it, firing an automatic rifle. And I just love that that one little panel there of her just running at it with that rifle. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And you get some more great imagery at the very end with Charles screaming, and sort of reliving things in his head and stuff like that. The other thought you mentioned Storm's sort of kryptonite, so to speak, with the
Right. Hmm.
claustrophobia in here. One of the things I've really enjoyed so far about these issues is that, these X-Men did not come together to learn how to use their powers. They
Mm-hmm.
they all pretty much know how to use their powers. They're experts. So you gotta introduce some things that are going to be foils for them, right? When you had the original X-Men, they were training to figure out how to use their powers. When you have the New Mutants, they're training to figure out how to use their powers. Same thing with Gen X and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But Storm and Colossus and Nightcrawler, like they're cool. They know what they're doing, and there's no problem there. So you kind of have to introduce these little quirks to show that they're not, completely overpowered.
Yeah, and you're right. They all do have some kind of weird little quirk. The claustrophobia for Storm, the Wolverine he doesn't know his past, right? Colossus, it's his sister. Um,
Mhm.
I'm sure there's something. Nightcrawler, maybe it's just his looks. He can't fit in with society, right? Um,
Yeah, I think it's a bit of that. I mean, maybe to a certain extent, it's the balance of his religion too, right? So like
sure.
him and Daredevil are those Catholic superheroes, or I'm not sure if Nightcrawler is specifically Catholic.
I
He
think
could be
he is,
Protestant, but
but
he's
yeah.
priestly. But the idea here being that he's trying to balance his faith with going out and punching people in the face or whatever he's doing at any given time. So yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, follow us here on YouTube where we'll read, rate, and review full Epic Collection trade paperbacks every other week. Again, programming note this Sunday, we're going to do Morbius. That's going to be pushed back at least a week just for personal reasons. Stoger, any last thoughts you want to add?
No, this is great. Looking forward to this full run through of the Chris Claremont run, following along on Curtis's Facebook and YouTube. But you can find me online at Stoder Shelf, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, all that stuff.
All right, thanks everyone for watching.